In a world of seemingly endless podcasts comes what many would call another one. Welcome to the Two Men podcast with your hosts Tim Matson and Bill Powell. Now please join these two confirmed men, that's two moderately entertaining nerds, as they take you on another podcast adventure that's guaranteed to be funny. Or not. This week the two men discuss the siren call that is nostalgia.
Welcome to another episode of the Two Men podcast. Woo! Yeah, it's pandemonium here at Two Men Central.
Pandemonium.
Yeah.
Pandemonium. It's not like any other kind of monium. Do we still get pandas from the Chinese?
I assume we have to import them.
Right. But I thought they'd like give us gifts.
Pandas?
Two pandas a year or two pandas. It's like
I don't think they can sustain that because with pandas, aren't they notoriously prone to not having sex?
Going back to our last week's podcast, I think scientists have discovered it's spooning.
Spooning
is the issue. Is one of them wants to spoon, the other one will have.
I'm telling you, with all that fur, it must be really hot.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't want to spoon
they
in
overheat.
Fur.
However, I think it also may be digestive in nature because they.
Do you think?
Well, they eat so much bamboo. That's got to be uncomfortable. Have they never considered?
It's a lot of roughage.
That's right. It's
just a lot of roughage.
They just don't feel up to it. It's like, hey, maybe we could have some panda time later on. And it's like, no,
I don't know.
I ate too much bamboo.
Yeah, my dad used to eat a lot of bran flakes. I can't imagine that would put him in the mood.
Did your dad eat grape nuts?
No, I like grape nuts. My dad didn't. Dad ate post bran flakes.
I like grape nuts too. Have you eaten them recently?
No, not in a while. The thing is, I have these weird cravings. I'll be like, I go to the grocery store, I'm like, really want some grape nuts, and then I'll get a box and I'll eat them, and I'm like, it feels like I'm eating gravel. I don't want any more grape nuts, and then I won't buy them for like a year at a time.
Yeah, and then but you get it. It's like you think you want it.
I'll remember. I'm like, I remember really liking this.
So who's the guy that used to sell the grape nuts? He's dead now.
Maybe I don't know who is
he
it?
did a commercial where he talked about eating trees.
That's an accurate description of grape nuts.
I forget
like
his name.
Chewing bark.
He was a naturalist. Says like many parts are edible, and he would talk about.
I don't remember this at all.
That was their whole ad campaign.
Many parts are edible. I don't think you really want that associated with a food product.
We'll have to look this up later. I forget the guy's name. He's a naturalist, but he was like, "Have you ever eaten the bark or have you ever eaten an oak tree? Many parts are edible."
I think you're making this up.
No, it's true.
I don't think this is true at all.
I'm Yul Gibbons. Many consider me an expert on natural foods like cattails. Yes, they're edible. I look for natural ingredients in my food. That's why grape nuts is part of my breakfast.
You know what? It goes to show that sometimes when we remember things, we don't get them right, which leads us to our topic.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia. That, I think, means remembering and thinking about things that happened in the past.
I think it means thinking that things were better before.
Is there a future tense of nostalgia?
Future nostalgia? I don't know. Maybe.
Fustalgia?
Fustalgia? We just coined a new term.
Fustalgia. That sounds like a perfume or something like that.
It does. Fustalgia.
Or a cologne. Did you work a lot of cologne?
I used to wear a lot of polo in high school.
Did you think it worked with the ladies?
Oh, it was 100% effective.
Did you combine it sometimes with the use of a gold necklace chain?
No, I never wore a gold chain.
See, I know that was the secret. See, you missed out on that. I wore a gold necklace chain. There's photographic evidence and cologne. And I have to tell you, that's where you missed it.
I might have missed the boat on that.
That is what made the ladies. They're interested in the cologne, but if you do the cologne and the gold necklace, they see that's it.
I remember the weirdest thing that was a thing was when I was in junior high and everybody had these big combs that you would carry around in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Why was that? Why was that a thing?
Hey,
it's such a status symbol to have this big honking comb sticking out of your back pocket.
Everybody cool did the comb.
Yeah, I know. I just don't know why.
I tell you why. I did it, so I must be able to tell you why.
Okay, tell me why.
I did it to comb my big hair.
Okay, well, there was a lot of big hair then. I'll get it.
You know, you need a big
I'll grant you
comb
that.
To comb big hair.
With that big hair, wasn't there a lot of hairspray involved, and that meant that you can't really comb it?
No, you got to comb your hair.
Didn't it all move in like one giant...
Did you never use hairspray? Clearly, you don't understand it.
No, I've used plenty of aqua rock on stage.
What is
Aqua Rock.
That's what we always called Aquanet, the hairspray. Call it Aqua Rock because it feels like a rock on your head after you've sprayed it.
Oh, it sounds like some sort of off-brand Viagra.
Aqua Rock. Can you smell what the Aqua Rock is cooking?
Be spontaneous as you want to be with Aqua Rock. You know what? I think we have a great idea here. I think that we should... you look into how hard it is to make a drug.
I don't like the way you said look into how hard it is. Well, it makes me uncomfortable a little bit.
That's right. I mean, I'm not sensitive about the topic at all. I don't know. Tim is. I don't know what that says.
I've had no complaints.
Nostalgia. Why do you think people want to be nostalgic?
I think it comes down to what I said earlier. People are under the misapprehension that it was better then, or it's something that's familiar. The unfamiliar is uncomfortable to us. So we prefer things that are familiar. That's why you get comfort foods or binge watching your favorite old TV show on Netflix, because it's something that's comfortable.
So what are the downsides to nostalgia?
It's not as good as you remembered.
Right.
I think that's the biggest downfall, especially with Hollywood movies or things like that. You think, man, I really loved the Ninja Turtles when I was in junior high. I wish they'd make another movie. And then they make another movie and you're like, yeah, this was not as good as I remembered.
I think this goes back to the idea, can you ever revisit a memory or an experience and have as good or a better experience than the first time around?
That's a really great question. I have to say, yes, if it's done properly. We were talking about Stranger Things, which kind of kicked off this topic. And I feel like watching Stranger Things is a nostalgia trip. Even though it's something that's brand new, it feels like I'm watching something that came from Amblin Entertainment in 1982.
Right.
It wouldn't have been out of place next to The Goonies or something similar.
I think this has to do with aging and wanting to think that everything that occurred during your youth was wonderful and has relevance.
I think relevance is the key because we like to pretend that we're still relevant.
That's right. I have little delusions that were relevant, although this podcast may be evidence to the contrary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whoever's listening, they should question their relevance.
They really might want to reconsider their life decisions.
That's right. Is it good or bad? Is nostalgia good? Because
is this podcast or nostalgia?
I'm not ready to render an opinion.
We might not want to ask the question, to be honest.
I'm not ready to render an opinion. But like all the toys when we were a kid, all the television shows, all the movies, everything. What's the biggest moment when you looked back on something that you have incredible fondness for and said, oh my gosh, this is horrible?
Oh, I can tell you a perfect example of that. I love dumb 80s comedies. I think 80s comedies are a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of 80s movies in general. But I remember really enjoying the Revenge of the Nerds.
Right.
Thinking that was a real empowering movie for nerds everywhere and was really fun and everything. And then rewatching it again, it's like, this is horrifying. They're exploiting these women, and one of the nerds has sexual relationship with a girl without her knowing it's him. And that's a horrible thing. It's really terrible. When you think about it, he's having sex with this girl who thinks that it's her boyfriend she's having sex with. And it's only after they've done it that he reveals to her who he is.
Right.
And that's an endearing thing. In the 80s, was. But now I'm like, that's a horrible thing. That is not cool at all.
You're writing today's values on old content.
I'm saying there are values that are worth having and should have been had then that we didn't quite hold in great esteem. We were willing to accept things that probably we shouldn't have. Well, and that to me, that's a nostalgic thing where that was something I could revisit and go, oh, yeah, no, I'm not on board for this. This is not cool.
I think that you can't deny your experience. And what I mean by that is if you enjoyed a movie as a kid, even if you look at it as an adult and think it's wretched and you go, I must have been wrong, you're not being true to yourself because your younger self really did enjoy that film and really did think it was great. You are a different you than you are in movies, and standards and society has changed. So to judge it through that paradigm is really not fair.
Yeah, I mean, I grant you that you do have to take into account who you were when you saw something. Yeah.
And what the standards were. I mean, if you look at Star Wars, which is arguably a great...
I'm going to stop you there. If you're about to slag off on Star Wars, I'm going to turn off this mic, I'm going to walk out the door, and you're never going to talk to me again.
Okay, so slagging on Star Wars, hey, here's a film from the 70s. It's about space and stuff. And you just watched it. You probably would go, well, that's a nice film. But you probably wouldn't think it was this great thing. And there are a lot of things from a special effects standpoint in that film that don't hold up anymore, that are obvious, that are actually not that great.
Well, yes and no. I think that if you know the technological limitations that they were under, I do think it's still a very impressive film.
Right, but that means
the
for
model
that
work,
time,
I think, is amazing, and I think a lot of the filmmaking techniques are really quite amazing. For that time.
Right, for that time, but viewing it within that context. That's a difficult filter for most people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, but enjoying films then, and enjoying films now, so many films I watch have so little weight to them. Like, I will defend the original Lord of the Rings trilogy to the ends of the earth. But I think, as great as they are, the Hobbit trilogy is as equally wretched.
Yeah, I gotta say, that's
abysmally awful.
We're actually pretty serious in this podcast.
It really is. That is a terrible series of movies, and I think that most of it boils down to the fact that there are practically no practical effects in that film.
Right.
It's all computer generated, and it feels hollow and fake and weightless. And there are very few stakes because you don't suspend your disbelief. And so you never feel like anybody's in any danger because the thing menacing them is not really there.
They made so many mistakes with that thing that you just can't can't even chalk it up to one obvious thing because how they segmented it was poor. It was poor on so many levels.
We could spend an entire episode ripping that thing to shreds.
So if you were to live in a time that is the most nostalgic for you, what would that afternoon or evening be?
I would say if I was living in a nostalgic time, it would be the fall around homecoming for your high school. So the leaves are starting to fall a little bit. John Hughes films are still being made and coming out.
Right.
That would be nostalgic for me. I have nostalgia for a small town Illinois evening where it's a little brisk. You have a football game and the band plays at halftime. And maybe you go see the new 16 Candles movie.
Right.
Yeah, that would be nostalgic for me. What about you?
If you could choose a moment for me to live in, that I would live in, whatever heaven is, it is when on a Wednesday afternoon in Oblong, or evening rather, when my mom and dad were gone but left me $3 to go to the Highway Cafe and get 2 cheeseburgers and fries, and I came home to watch Star Trek, the original series, all by myself in the house, and it was a riveting episode, although I can't remember which one. But that moment, in my mind, at that age, that was wonderful. I love that. And in my memory, we should talk about memory, that would be one thing. But in my memory...
or lack thereof.
Right. In my memory, that was a perfect moment.
No, I can't argue that. That's a pretty good moment.
I didn't see how I was getting to eat out fast food. I didn't see how life could get any better.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's pretty good. I tell you, if I was to pick something, it would be Friday evening. Mom is getting off at the bank, and she's going to pick up tenderloins at the Tasty Freeze.
Right.
And bring them home, and we're going to eat those, and then we're going to drive to the drive-in theater and see a film, and the drive-in theater is just down the road from my house.
Yeah, that's like a double treat, baby.
That would be a great evening for me.
What's the minimum amount of time that you think must elapse before people can be nostalgic about something?
I could be nostalgic. I honestly can be nostalgic for a week ago when the kids and I sat down and played a board game and had a really nice evening, just the three of us. And to me, that's a moment I would love to live in forever, because that was a real... I'm going to get all emotional now.
Oh my gosh.
It's true.
Did you...
I mean, it was a real moment of family bonding and love and being with one another that happens to infrequently anymore, really.
Did you win?
I always win.
I was going to say, I would think that was a primary. That was a
totally
primary
lost.
time. Oh, all right. Well,
no, I mean,
my condolences.
The days have gone where I handily beat the kids at any board game. It used to be that I could beat them easily because my critical thinking skills were superior to theirs.
Right.
Not anymore.
Well, now you can't even read the dice.
I can't. Yeah, I can't without my glasses.
You're like, what's that card say? They're just lying to you.
God.
Oh, it's like, Dad, you have, move back 4 square.
Well, this is not like Clue either. I mean, the board games that we play now are so freaking complex that I forget some of the rules.
Who is your favorite Clue character?
Colonel Mustard.
You were Colonel Mustard.
I was always Colonel Mustard. Right, yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that I was always Colonel Mustard.
I always loved Colonel Mustard. Samantha is always Miss Scarlet, and Christian is always Mrs. Peacock. I don't remember why he ended up being Mrs. Peacock, but he always has been now for forever.
That's right. All right. I didn't even know when I first started playing the game, because my upbringing was so simple. I didn't know. I was like, what's a laboratory? and who are these people that are living in a hotel?
That's funny.
Because I was like, this place is huge. And they have secret passages?
Yeah, I want to live in the Clue house. That sounds awesome.
That's what we should build. We should build the Clue house. That would be...
well, it's funny you should say that, because if you pay attention to my house, each room is color-coded to a Clue character.
Oh, I did not pay
Yeah,
attention.
you never noticed that, did you?
No.
Yeah, the living room is Mr. Green. The dining room is Colonel Mustard. The kitchen is Miss Scarlet. The laundry room is Mrs. White. The study is Mrs. Peacock. And I haven't done Professor Plum yet. That's
What's
the
your
last
bedroom?
one. That's going to be Professor Plum.
Oh.
It's going to be Plum.
How are you going to sell that from a getting busy to...
I'm just going to... My A game is going to have to be really strong.
And now, prepare to be... prepare
Your
to
depths are going to be plumbed. Yes.
Prepare to
Did
be...
it. Nailed it.
That's right. I am the murderer. Or were you the one that got murdered? Who is it that wound
I'm
up
about
dead?
to find the body.
That's right. Lay still. So going back to our conversation, if you're the body,
That's kind of weird.
well, I was going to say I was going back to
Prefer
your.
a little movement. I don't want everybody still.
They're squirming to get
It's
away.
a little strange.
Did you get nostalgia for the Brady Bunch?
I guess maybe. Yeah, I did watch a lot of the Brady Bunch. I never really was a big fan of the Brady Bunch, but yeah, I guess so. Sure.
What was it about the Brady Bunch that you found unbelievable?
Not unbelievable. It's a live action show, and I prefer to animated cartoons.
Oh, I see. All right. There was no love action towards Marcia? Or
No, there
anybody?
was plenty of lust towards Marcia. Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, if we were going to get into that, I'd have to watch Gilligan's Island because
Of Marianne.
and
of course.
those
And
wonderful shorts.
Tina Louise, of course.
Tina Louise too, but yeah,
that's
primarily Dawn Wells.
I'd move on that. If you still want to make that happen, I'd
Still
move.
think it's viable?
Yeah, I still think
a
it's totally
chance.
viable, but you need to move on it.
I better
because
move on it.
Time is ticking.
Time's ticking for us all.
Are you nostalgic for Peter Pan?
Which version are you talking about? The live
Any.
action? No, not really.
Me
not
either.
particularly. No.
That was a horrible question. Are you
I'll tell you, the Disney movie I am nostalgic for is The Fox and the Hound.
okay?
That I am extremely nostalgic for because
Of
I
Robin Hood.
had because what?
Of Robin Hood, isn't that Fox and the Hound the Robin Hood?
No, it's the movie The Fox and the Hound is the name of the movie.
What's the one that has the Robin Hood?
Robin Hood. What's the one with Robin Hood? It's Robin Hood, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not the one with Errol Flynn, but like the cartoon
No, Robin Hood is the one with the fox is Robin Hood.
Okay, well, forgive
Yes,
me,
but
it's a
where's
Disney
the hound?
It's a Disney movie with the fox in it.
I find them. Show me the hound.
I'm sure there's a hound in there
There's no
somewhere.
hound in
There's
there.
a tiger and there's a bear. I'm sure there's a hound.
I don't think there's a hound.
That was written by that guy who wrote Trailers for Sale or Rent, Rooms to Let 50 cents.
Okay.
I'm a
Man of means by no means.
King of the Road.
That's right, King of the Road. Yeah, you're a little
Roger-
old. You're just that much older
Roger
than me.
Miller. Oh, my dad had all those albums, and he had a totally inappropriate preacher crush on the Mandrell sisters.
Oh, that's totally appropriate. That's very
Yeah, I
that's
think
very
that's-
G-rated. If
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a pastor crush, it would have to be the Mandrell sisters.
He always acted like it was about the music,
it's-
like when he would want to watch the
Hee
Hee-Haw.
Haw. I knew that was coming.
That's
I
right.
knew that was coming.
Well,
That's
it's
one of my dad's favorites.
A lot of
too.
spiritual songs on there, and they have
Yes.
and there's
And
nothing.
the comedy is very, very family friendly.
That's right. That's right. So we're gonna watch Hee Haw. Star Trek. No, that's son. Are you aware that that's not true? I don't see how you can believe that. That was actually an argument made to me at one time as a child.
The Star Trek wasn't true?
Why? How could I watch something that wasn't true? My grandma, actually, it was my grandma.
That's
that was
awesome.
like, how can you watch that? You know that's not true. Star Trek.
So did she think the Beverly Hillbillies was a documentary then?
Yeah,
or?
I'm not sure the criterion by
Wow,
watching television shows that
amazing.
aren't true.
Here's a little nugget of trivia for you. Do you remember there was a character on Hee Haw called the Reverend Grady Nutt?
Yeah.
I went to see him at the Jasper County Fairgrounds when I was a little kid.
Oh, my gosh.
Right before he died in an airplane accident.
Oh, my gosh. Well, let's talk about since we're talking about nostalgia,
Uh-huh.
are you familiar with the Hee Haw murders?
No. What is this?
The Hee Haw murders?
Hee Haw murders?
Yeah. So
This
what was
sounds
the nine?
amazing. Do tell.
Okay, do you remember Junior Samples?
I do remember Junior Samples.
BR 549.
BR 549.
Okay, there was another guy called Skinny something. Skin Bean or something like
String Bean.
String Bean. Yeah,
Yeah.
He was murdered.
Oh, I did not
Him
know
and his
that.
wife quit the show,
Uh-huh.
went home with their money from Hee Haw, and were murdered.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's like a famous Hollywood Hee Haw murder. I'm going to ask a question. What's the opposite of nostalgia?
Oh, we already decided that. It was Fustalgia, wasn't it?
Well, no, because that would be projecting into the future, is assuming that things are going to be.
Oh, you're talking about nostalgia is looking back with fondness. What's looking back with distaste or
right
disregard?
distaste. Well, if nostalgia is attributing good feelings to a memory which may or may not have had them.
I don't know that that's true. I think nostalgia is just the act of looking back. Regardless of whether it's good or bad, it's hearkening back to a former time. I think it implies that it's good,
Right.
but I don't necessarily mean to say that it is good or that it should be looked on as good.
Well,
because I think nostalgia can be a harmful thing, and I think it's a real problem with a lot of the entertainment Hollywood is producing. It relies heavily on nostalgia when an original story idea couldn't hurt every once in a while.
Although I think that most nostalgia is perceived as a good memory because you don't hear many people going, "Oh, I remember that time I got stabbed in the chest. Whoa, man, those were great days."
Good days indeed.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that heart attack. Would that I could have it again. What was the closest time you ever came to death?
I'm very cautious. I don't like to be in danger. I don't like to put myself in danger.
That's what we've led from the whole snakes thing that you'll flee.
Absolutely.
You're going to run. That's right.
Fight or flight. I am hardwired for flight.
Mentally, you're hardwired for flight. From a design standpoint,
I take umbrage at that insinuation. I'm very aerodynamic. Okay, the closest I've been to death was my friend Roger and I were out traipsing around the forest as we were wont to do when we were kids. And this was after a huge rainstorm that was flooded and everything. And there was a ditch that we normally, just hop across. Well, it was so flooded and the water was moving so quickly that it swept our feet out from under us as we were fording it. We were crossing it. And the only way we kept from being swept down into a creek, which was out past its banks, where we most assuredly would have gotten killed.
Yes,
there was a post on one end of the culvert that I grabbed, and I grabbed Roger, and both of us managed to regain our footing.
So Roger owes his life to you.
He really does.
So
on multiple occasions.
If we're going to reframe this from a nostalgic standpoint, you were a hero.
I was
That's
a
right.
big-time hero.
You deserve a medal.
I really should get a medal.
Now, one could argue that going out into the stream, that
was a dumb idea.
Right, yeah, it was a dumb idea.
I don't remember whose idea it was, but we would go out this direction. There was a little road that goes through the forest. We would always go walking up through there. And so we just kept going. We didn't think it was that big of a deal. And as a kid, you never think that something is a danger.
Right. Did you ever get the breath knocked out of you?
I fell down a flight of steps on a set one time, and I actually dropped 6 to 8 feet on my back on the stage.
Yeah.
From a platform. That was not pleasant.
Yeah, I tell you what, I can remember everybody telling, as an adult, they'd say, be careful not to get the breath knocked out of you. And I never understood what that meant. Meaning, like, you're like, what do you mean get the breath knocked out of you? And until you actually fall from a height
until it happens.
Until you break, and then you go, oh.
I totally get it.
This whole moment, and I remember distinctly as a kid, I was on a swing set, and I fell off. This is another swing set story based upon the net result
Does
of this.
Does this end in blood and tears?
No.
Oh, thank God.
But it ends in me living, so I guess that's victory. I was a hero to myself.
Depends on who you ask.
That's right. I was a hero to myself, but I was swinging on a swing set with in Marion, Illinois. I fell off, and it hit my back big time. And I stood up, and I realized something wasn't right. I didn't even know if I realized that I wasn't breathing. Do you mean
Did you think, I might be dead? This might be the afterlife.
No,
I'm clearly not breathing, so...
My body, I think, was saying, hey now, something's wrong. It was sending me alert signals, like the little...
pop-up messages galore.
You need to do something ASAP. And quite frankly, I remember that moment because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
It's a little panic-inducing.
Yeah, and you start to breathe, and you're going, I'm breathing. And then it's like a little by little, my lungs opened up. And I think eventually I got back on the swing like immediately, like a kid. That was the first time that my biological self sent off signals so powerful that basically I understood that my body was telling me, you might die here.
This could be it.
There's oxygen, kind of need it.
The time that I fell down the steps, this was on a set for A Christmas Carol, and I was playing Jacob Marley, and I had these like built-up shoes that were 6 inch platform shoes.
Were you doing it in drag?
No, I was just supposed to be much larger than Scrooge, and
right?
So I had to walk up. For one thing, on the set, I walked up a flight of steps to get to the upper platform to make my exit.
Right.
And then I was supposed to turn and walk down this flight of steps to another platform, and then another flight of steps to get back down to the set, to stage level.
And as we all know, stairs on sets are generous in their proportion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is to say, not.
Plenty of handrails, lighting. Right. You can always see where you're going. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I remember taking one step at the top and thinking, I don't think I have my footing. And the next thing I know, I have teleported to the stage floor. Because I barely remember toppling over. And then the next thing I know, I am looking up to the entire cast, looking down at me, thinking I might have died.
Well, you could have played. Here's how I would look at this: is the next night you could have played Jacob Marley for
Could have for real.
It's
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, that ghost, he seems totally legit.
Totally lived in performance. That's amazing.
That's right. So now, do you look at that thing fondly from a nostalgia standpoint?
From falling? No, I do not. That was not fun.
But you remember it.
I do remember it. Yeah.
All right,
vividly.
let me ask you: would you take that experience away?
I don't think so. I mean,
Now, see, isn't that funny? Okay, because so here we have something where you fell. You almost
yes,
you
and
could
it was scary because I couldn't breathe.
you could have cracked your head open.
Could have.
That's
I could have been paralyzed. I could have broken my back if I'd hit something.
I don't tend to feel nostalgic about anything as an adult, and I guess I'm different than that.
Oh, I disagree. I'll bet you do feel nostalgic for a certain period of time in your life. I'll bet you do feel nostalgia for your time at the Brooch.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah,
I do. I
Yeah.
totally do. I wish the Brooch still existed. I wish Hall and Steven were still with us and that they were still downtown making wacky theater.
Yeah.
I wish that was true more than a lot of things. So many things. I would trade so many things to have those two men back and to have them still be doing theater downtown.
When I look at that, I think that's because I was young, and by young, I still mean in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
You know what? Have you ever considered the idea that you may one day look upon this podcast, or we may one day look upon this podcast from a nostalgic standpoint?
I absolutely think that'll be the case.
I want you to play, you're responsible for the editing the podcast highlights for my funeral. Assuming that you survive me.
I will happily.
If you die before then I relieve you of those responsibilities.
I don't have to have it done before I go.
Email me from wherever you are.
Email you from the beyond. You're assuming I'll have decent internet connection wherever I'm going.
Are you nostalgic about chess?
I'm nostalgic for the time that I used to be able to outwit my son and my daughter playing chess. That was great. Not anymore.
We're talking about like when they were 4?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate your high esteem of my accomplishments.
So, to give you some props, how are you at checkers?
No, I'm not bad.
You're fair.
Yeah.
How do you do on that little Cracker Barrel game?
The Cracker Barrel. I'm awesome at that.
You are?
Yeah.
See,
so
I suck at that.
I can get it down to one peg.
You can?
Yeah.
Every time?
Not every time. That's the thing is you would think you would be able to remember how that works.
Yeah, because it's a system, right?
It is. There's nothing outstanding about it. There's a system to doing it. And you just jump the pegs and you leave one. And I swear to God, every single time we go there, I have to relearn that dumb game.
I'm bad at that game.
That thing is maddening. You would think I would remember it, but I don't.
It's not like we were playing Axis and Allies here.
No.
God. I mean,
No.
This is like the simplest game.
There's not much simpler.
Did you like those maze games, like on the back of the menus? Like,
Yeah, I do like maze. You know the games that I don't like? I don't like those sliding puzzle things where you have to slide tiles around to make a picture.
Oh, yeah.
I hated those things.
Yeah.
Hate them so much.
Yeah, and well, for one thing, the mechanics and the machining wasn't very good when we were kids.
No,
and so those
they always
tiles
hung
would
up.
stick, and so you would be like, screw it.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to mess with it, even if I could figure it out.
So anyway, thanks for spending time with us here at the Two Men Podcast. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed your time you spent with us, please tell a friend. Leave us a rating on your podcast service of choice. We'd greatly appreciate that as well.
Yes, if you enjoyed your time, don't just tell a friend, tell the Queen. Tell the Queen of England.
That would be awesome.
That's right. Tell the Queen of England that she needs to listen to this podcast. In the time she has left on Earth, I think that would be the best use of her time.
That woman's immortal.
She is, yeah.
Charles
she's
is
gonna-
never getting the throne.
Oh, that poor bastard.
That's true.
All right. Same old, same old.
You can never get
Get
this
this
intro
out.
right. Why is that?
Because I want it to be perfect. That's why.
You're
All
not
right.
going to be perfect. Just say it.
It's now time for instant opinion
That's
where
a little fast. Slow it down.
It was not fast.
I
it
wish
was,
you could see his
it
face.
was
This is
perfect.
beautiful.
It was
not
perfect.
perfect. It was a little fast.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Look, how you feel about my face
I have many emotions about your face. Go ahead.
Tim is attracted to me. He's
It's
written
true.
some sexual fan
It's very
fiction.
hard to stay across the table from you every.
That's right. He keeps leaning in, and I feel a little uncomfortable.
Can we do this?
Yes, all right.
All right, come on.
It's time for Instant Opinion, where I give Tim a word, and he renders an instant opinion. Are you ready, Tim?
I'm ready, Phil.
All right. Do you have your timer ready?
I don't.
All right, so
I was too busy making fun of you. All right, my timer is ready.
first word, bottom feeders.
Bottom feeders. Catfish are delicious, so I do think bottom feeders can be really great, especially fried. Catfish are bottom feeders. Don't look at me that way. I'm against bottom feeders because that sounds kind of naughty, and this is a train wreck.
All right. Chest hair.
Chest hair. I'm pro chest hair when you're talking about like Charlton Heston or somebody of that ilk.
Yeah.
A manly man. I am against chest hair when it's like the female Russian bodybuilder chest hair. It's not so much into that.
Pinkies.
Pinkies. I am pro pinkies because that's how you tell people that you are fancy when you're drinking your tea.
Yes.
You extend your pinky. I am against pinkies because, I don't know, they seem superfluous. I figure that 3 fingers should be fine. I don't need that fourth one.
Works in cartoons.
It does. Yeah, The Simpsons
They
are
have
fine with
Nobody's
3.
complaining about lack of fingers.
No.
Pheromones.
Pheromones. Pheromones?
Yeah, pheromones.
I was going to say,
or
it sounds like someone getting busy behind the Ferris wheel.
Or it's like pheromones as in equity about moaning. Pheromones.
I am pro equity in moaning. That's definitely a pro.
That's not what I heard. All right. And there we're out. I've gotten a couple of emails.
You've gotten emails?
Yeah, about your pheromoning.
Uh-huh.
All right. Confucius say, never eat yellow snow. That's one of his greatest sayings. I think that might have been racist.
That might have been. I'm against racism, so bad Confucius jokes I am against.
Right.
That was only told as an illustration
of course.
Something you should never do.
That's right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And he's not Polish in any way.
No.
Conference calls.
I am pro conference calls because there is no greater way to get out of doing work than to be on a conference call. Right. Having said that, I am against conference calls because they are generally useless and boring and make me question the value of life halfway through them.
Mm-hmm. Campbell's soup.
I am pro Campbell's soup because it is tasty and easy to fix. I am against Campbell's soup because it's got a lot of salt in them. And Ted Cruz likes Campbell's soup, so I'm against pretty much anything Ted Cruz likes.
He likes Campbell's soup? I didn't even know that was a thing.
You know that thing? Yeah. Phil is puzzling over his handwriting now. He's unsure what it is that he's put down on this paper. He's sounding it out. Use your words, Phil.
No, because that'll give it away. The Second World War. That's not what I had written down.
The Second World War. I am pro the Second World War because the good guys won. So, yay for that. I'm against the Second World War because a lot of people died, and I'm not for that. That's a bad thing.
Last one. Cakewalks.
Cakewalk. I am pro a good cakewalk because, I mean, you got a free cake after you were done if you didn't, like, lose your seat. That was awesome.
Right. And you also got to date, the implication is if there was, like, a fair person, you could, it's like a way to meet a girl.
What? I don't know.
It was like a dating. Like when girls, junior high, they did a cakewalk where the girls fixed cakes. Uh-huh. So if you got somebody's cake, that was kind of like a date. It was kind of like you got to eat the cake with the girl.
I don't know. That seems a little questionable.
Hey,
a little misogynist there, I think.
Well, the fact that the girls fixed... Well, I'm sorry.
What about the guys? What if you wanted to fix a cake? Huh?
You were not allowed. I was going to say, in your cakewalks, did guys fix cakes?
I like to bake.
Did you fix a cake for a
No,
cake?
I never fixed a cake.
I was
going
going to say, that would not have been allowed.
My mom fixed the cake for the cakewalk.
Yeah, that's all I have.
All right.
So now that's time. So we've wrapped up another instant opinion epiphany episode.
Your outro is as good as your intro.
Yeah, it is. All right, I'll do it again.
You know I'm keeping both of these in. Go ahead.
No, you're not.
I totally am. Go ahead.
You better not. All right. This has been another episode of Instant Opinion.
The pressure is killing you.
Yes. With me, your host, Philip.
And me, your co-host, Tim.
Who's not keeping this in because
not keeping this in.
You better not. All right. As long as it's funny. But if it's not, that's all Tim. Bye.
Bye.
Greetings. I am Alice, highly paid digital assistant to the two moderately entertaining nerds of the Two Men podcast. Want to let us know what you thought of the show? Have a topic you'd like to hear discussed? Feel like demanding your money back? We'd love to hear from you on 2 out of those 3 questions. Drop us an email at twomencast@gmail.com. In the meantime, please rate us and leave a review on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Also, for all discussions moderately entertaining, you can find us at facebook.com/2mencast. Please join us again next week when we'll be guaranteed to be funny. Or not.